most wonderful day of the year. I know it's supposed to be Christmas, but opening day is as good as it gets. Rick Dayton on your radio, and so glad you are with us outside PNC Park along Federal Street right now. But we're going to also do some regular significant conversations, including one right now with a colonel from the United States Air Force. Reid Novotny joins us right now. He is also a cybersecurity expert. As Colonel Novotny joins us right now, it is good to have you here. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing great, and I love your enthusiasm about this opening day. It's infectious.
Well, I sure appreciate that. There's just something about the start of something new and something different, and you spent a lot of time in D.C., and so you have seen people try to reboot things and do things differently, and I think that you understand that from a congressional standpoint and that sort of thing as well. But you've also spent time in the U.S. Air Force. You've also spent time doing cybersecurity, and here we are now dealing with all of the issues that are going on with Russia and Ukraine and the cyber attacks that are part of that war as well. How much do we here in America need to be concerned about whether Russia is coming after us from a cyber standpoint, do you think?
Yeah, Rick, that's a great question. And the bottom line up front is the fact that our nation-state peers like Russia have always been engaging in cyber warfare against not only the people, but the institutions of the United States. And so it's just heightened now, in my opinion, and they might be trying a couple of more things, but really it's just underreported, the fact that places like Russia, China, Iran, North Korea are always trying to get into not only your personal information, but also the information of our systems that protect our country.
Is it that they're going after corporate accounts, big government accounts, et cetera, or is it more that they're coming on people who are on Broad Street and Main Street USA? Where are they going?
Yeah, Rick. So bottom line, again, is the fact that they're going after all of the above. And there's lots of ways to make yourself less vulnerable in these situations. But I like to say cybersecurity is part of national security. And I say that in the sense that you can do your part by securing your own personal iPhones and iPads and laptops and even online banking and online email accounts by doing your part also.
So what does that mean? You say secure them, and people say, well, I know my phone is. I mean, that's secure, but that's not what you mean. You mean to make sure that it is secure from a cyber standpoint. What does that look like? What do you have to do?
Yeah, Rick, listening to you talking about opening day, I really came up with an analogy of just one of your baseball fans driving into PNC Park. If you take some steps and walk through it, you can actually think about what you're doing along the way. And the first thing you do when you're going, hopefully, to PNC Park, driving your car, is to grab your key to your car. And really that equates to just making sure you have a good password. A password is actually an encryption key to make sure that you are the only person that can get into that online account, and making sure they're complex or they're stored in a password keeper or changed regularly will keep your key out of the hands of bad guys when you're going online.
How safe are those password keepers? Are they encrypted in such a way that you can be secure that if you put your passwords in there, they're safe?
You can, and I say that in the sense that I personally use one of them. There's a few, and I'm not a product placement person, but there's a few people that do this very well, and you can go to one of your favorite search buttons and look up password keepers. But the reason why they do this well, and this is a lot to do with cybersecurity, is that they don't want to be embarrassed either. So they're going to continuously keep those secure for you, and if they didn't, they'd go out of business.
We see messages that pop up on the bottom of our computer if you have a Windows computer that says, hey, there's a new security update for your system. Do you want to install it now? How many people say no to those? I mean, did those get ignored more than they should?
So, Rick, it's amazing. They do get ignored more than they should. And going back to our driving analogy, that's just like, would you really drive into PNC Park with a flat tire or the check engine light or maybe 3,000 miles past your oil change? That's exactly what your computer is telling you. And the fact that you can just hit yes and accept always and always update your computer makes it really easy, especially with these big companies like Microsoft and Google who run the laptop operating systems for you. So just set it and forget it and make sure those are always up to date.
Reid Novotny, our guest here on KDKA. He's a cybersecurity expert. He's also a colonel in the United States Air Force. 20-plus years working with some of these very complex cybersecurity issues right now. What are the biggest issues that we're facing right now? Is it from outside countries, or is it just from being lax and not necessarily paying enough attention to what it is that we do on our own computers and phones and tablets?
Yeah, great question. So I think the more you think about what you're doing in a day on your computer, on your online persona, you can be safe. And you got to know where you're going. Back to our analogy, you got to know where you're going when you type in, say, a URL, or if you get a link in an email. So make sure you know exactly where you're heading if you're driving your car. And that includes things like if you're trying to go to Amazon to buy something, make sure it's Amazon, not with a 0 at the end instead of an O. So you got to know where you're going. But there are attacks that go against the U.S., and I put them in 3 buckets. I really say some people do it for fun. If they're cyber hackers, they do it for fun. Some people do it for money. And then other people, like we had talked about at the beginning, do it for warfare. And it's the nation-state actors who do it for warfare. So those 3 categories make us all less secure online.
What about old accounts? How important is it that you get rid of those rather than say, okay, I just don't use that anymore, I'm just going to leave it there? You should really get rid of it, right?
You know, you should. And I was thinking about this before I came on your show today, and I think if you Google my name and you look back 5 pages, I actually have a picture of my wife and I in a Myspace account. If you remember Myspace back in the day.
I do, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So somewhere there's a Myspace account with my name on it, and for the love of me, I have no idea what the password is, but I should get rid of it, and this is why. You know, my Myspace account could possibly be the same as my PNC bank account. And so when a bad guy gets into your PNC or into your Myspace account, the first thing they're going to do is try your email combination as your username, and then that same password on a litany of different online accounts. Now, I don't really care if someone puts up a different picture of me on Myspace, but I sure as heck care if someone goes into my PNC account and withdraws $1,000 or $10,000.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you know what? That is really, really good advice, and we sure appreciate you being on with us. More than that, though, Reid, thank you for the time that you spent in the United States Air Force and keeping us safe from the military standpoint. God bless you for that, and thank you so much for being on KDKA. Thanks
for having me, Rick. Have a great day.
Really good stuff. You want to know more about what Reid is doing? He's got a website, Reid Novotny, ReidNovotny.com, and he can help you understand a little bit more about some of the ways